Good morning, dear devotees. Once again, I welcome you all to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call for this mid-morning session. I would like to start by sharing a quote by Srila Prabhupada Ji. If you do not understand somebody, how can we love him? Love is far away, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so kind that he is dist- distributing Krishna Prema. Take anyone, come on. Bombay, November 30th, 1974. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we're very fortunate to have Her Grace Lalitangi Radha Devi Mataji. Mataji will be enlightening us on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata, chapter 14, verses 93 to 103. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Lalitangi Radha Devi Mataji. Thank you so much for giving your wonderful and valuable time this morning. We're very honored to have you on the call. Waiting eagerly to hear from you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Guranga ki jai. Please take over the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Shivani Mataji, for your wonderful service and a very sweet voice of introduction. So many times we have heard you. Thank you so much for the service. Thank you so much, all the assembled devotees. So, am I audible, clear?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, and you're able to see the screen?
Have you started to share?
Okay, yeah. So just, is it okay now?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
It's up, Mataji.
Yeah, is the words right, Mataji? Preeti Vilasan, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So thank you all very much. So let's offer obeisances and request the blessings of all the acharyas and the Lord, so that we can discuss about them. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langayate girim, yat kripa tamaham vande, Shri Gurum Dinatarinam, Paramananda Madhavam, Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram. Okay, so we are in chapter 14, text 93, and we heard of the beautiful class of Prabhu, Jivan Gaurahari Prabhu yesterday, nicely describing the previous verses and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is traveling to East Bengal, and before that we heard so many great speakers talk about the marriage of Lord and Lakshmi Priya, and beautiful description of the marriage and the service attitude of Lakshmi Priya Devi. So now, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still Nimai Pandit, and he's going to East Bengal in the banks of the Padmavati river. So maybe we can read the verses and then discuss a little bit on them. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Mahavidya Goshti Prabhu Kari Laina Bange Padmavati Deki Prabhu Buli Lena Range. The Lord attracted a large number of students in East Bengal. He would often wander on the banks of the Padmavati river. So we saw the map of Padmavati river and from where to where the Lord went. Oops. Okay. Sahasra Sahasra Shishya Haile Tatai Hena Nahi Jani Ke Padaya Kontani Shumi Sababanga Deshi Aise Daya Nimai Pandita Stane Padi Bhane Giya Hena Kripa Drishte Prabhu Karina Yakyana Duhima Se Sabai Haila Vidyavan. So he had thousands and thousands of students there. So it is difficult to know who studied with whom. People from all over East Bengal came rushing to study under Nimai Pandit. The Lord taught them in such a merciful way that within 2 months, everyone became learned. Commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Nimai Pandit resided on the bank of the Padmavati river in East Bengal for 2 months and trained innumerable students to become expert scholars. Kata Sata Shata Jana Padavila Biya Gareyaya Arakata Aise Shuniya. Hundreds of students received titles and returned home. And hearing about this, many new students joined. During the time of the Lord, the teachers awarded titles to their own students. By these titles, scholars were recognized as authorities on a particular scripture. In other words, a person was identified as possessing knowledge of a particular scripture according to the title he received after completing his studies. Eimate Vidya Rasa Vaikuntera Pati Vidya Rase Banga Deshe Karilena Stiti. In this way, the Lord of Vaikunta enjoyed scholastic pastimes while staying in East Bengal. Text 99. एतनवद्वीपे लक्ष्मी प्रभु रवि राहे अंतरे दुखिता देवी कारे nahi kahe. Meanwhile, in Navadvipa, Lakshmi was in great distress due to separation from the Lord. She did not reveal this to anyone. Commentary. While Nimai was engaged in his scholastic pastimes in East Bengal, Lakshmi Priya Devi in Navadvipa became extremely grief-stricken out of separation from her worshipable Lord. She did not, however, disclose her confidential internal distress to anyone. In her daily activities, it was seen that, apart from serving the Lord's mother or her mother-in-law, she did not even take a morsel of Vishnu Prasada in order to maintain her body. She used to sit alone in a solitary place and simply shed tears. She did not feel any happiness at heart. Ultimately, due to separation from Gaura Narayana, her beloved husband, was more dear to her than life. Lakshmi Priya Devi, the crest jewel of chaste woman, became so impatient that out of extreme anxiety, she resolved to depart in order to serve her husband. She kept her replica body, a shadow form, at the bank of the Ganges in this world and disappeared from the eyes of people in her original form as Mahalakshmi. She attained samadhi while meditating on the lotus feet of her worshipable husband, Sri Gaura Narayana. Lakshmi Priya Devi, the crest jewel of chaste woman, departed forever. Text 100. Niravadikare Devi Aira Sevana Prabhu Giya Chena Haite Nahika Bojana. She kept always engaged in the service of Mother Sachi without eating anything since the Lord's departure. Text 101. नामे से अन्ना मात्रे परिग्रह कारे ईश्वर विच्छेदा bada dukita antare. She accepted some rice only in name, for she was deeply distressed in separation from the Lord. Ekeshwara sarva ratri kare na grandana chitte swastya lakshmi na paye na konakshana. She passed the nights alone, crying incessantly. Her heart found no relief for even a moment. Text 103. Ishvara vicheda lakshmi na pare sahite icha kari lena prabhura samipa haite. Eventually, Lakshmi could no longer tolerate separation from the Lord and she desired to go join him. So these are the verses for discussion today. So we see that how in the first half of the verse that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nimai Pandit is engaged as a teacher in East Bengal. So we have read in Chaitanya Charitamrita and also in the previous verses that how Nimai Pandit was an excellent student himself, that he mastered so many things within a very short time. Obviously, he's a Supreme Lord himself. And even in Krishna Leela, with just 64 days, he went to Gurukula with Sandipani Muni, and each day he mastered one art. So we can see that the first half of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime is filled with scholarly pastimes, and how when he was talking with Keshava Kashmiri as a scholar was stunned that how that as a boy who is not well versed, who's just starting, and who's starting student of Sanskrit can find out points of fault and glories of Sanskrit poetry. As we know, poetry is a very advanced level of learning, and he had mastered the art, and he was stunned to see that whatever he said is absolutely true, and he had no answer for what Nimai Pandit says. So when he teaches, we can imagine what would be that. And also we have heard that how when he goes, he was very, very well versed in scriptures, that he used to argue for and against and again for and against a topic like this endlessly, that the scholars would run away by seeing him. So here as a teacher, he's been engaged in teaching, and when the word spread out, thousands and thousands of people came. And Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying that we don't know uh, how many were taught by him. And when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit teaches, um, they were just able to get the certificates within 2 months. And also the Lord taught them in such a merciful way that within 2 months, everyone became learned. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, he himself came to teach, right? Krishna, he came as Krishna, and he spoke Bhagavad Gita, and he said, surrender to me. And not many were knowing how to surrender to the Lord in spite of his detailed instructions in Bhagavad Gita. So he came himself. We have heard this example from Srila Prabhupada, that as a kindergarten teacher holds the hands of a student and makes them write. Because otherwise, the student who's just starting to write, he can't figure out how to write A, B, C. He can see, but where to start, where to end, how it goes, how much slanting the A comes. For that small child, it's beyond to conceive. So the teacher holds the child's hand and writes like this, and repeatedly until it registers. So that's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and he taught by example himself. As a teacher, he became a devotee. He took the mood of the greatest devotee, Srimati Radharani, and he taught by example how to follow the instructions of Lord Krishna. And so when he taught, we can see that people from all over East Bengal came rushing to study under Nimai Pandit. And so such was the scholarly pastimes of the Lord. And we can see this after this. It's not that the Lord was not knowing what is going to come. So he told when we read after this that he's meeting Tapan Mishra, he's telling Tapan Mishra that we will meet again in Varanasi. You go and await my further instructions there. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's whole life, he is a merciful teacher by example. And that's why the Ashtakam that he left is Siksha Ashtakam. The 8 verses of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And if you see, that's why Srila Prabhupada wrote teachings of Lord Chaitanya before writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, condensed form. There we can see how he taught to Rupa Goswami, and that forms the basis of so many books. And the Rasa Tattva, starting from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the 10 days that he taught to Rupa Goswami, and then to Sanatana Goswami for 2 months, and how that formed the basis of practicing devotional service, that he composed Hari Bhakti Vilas and so many other literatures that forms the basis of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Then he taught to Prakashananda Saraswati. His when argued, why are you dancing like you're a sannyasi, so you have to study Vedanta, and how he said that my spiritual master considered me a fool, and then he asked me to start chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And when I start chanting it, what all happens, and how he's not able to stop it, and how ecstasy comes. So when he's explaining all this, Prakashananda Saraswati is changed, his heart's changed, and then all the Mayavati sannyasis there, they also engage in kirtan with the Lord. Same way, he patiently listened Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya 7 days, first as a very humble student, with what he has to say, with no expressions of approval, but unlimited tolerance and patience. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya proposed the impersonal theory before the personality of Godhead himself, he was telling that how the Supreme Lord is impersonal. After hearing that, and then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is asking, did you understand? anything? Why there are no questions? Then he says that I'm understanding the meaning of the verses, but your commentary, I'm not able to understand because it is complex. So then Sarvam Bhattacharya says, okay, then you explain. And then he taught what is the original verses, what are the meaning of the verses, and just one verse from Bhagavatam Atma Ramascha Munayo, how many innumerable ways that it can be explained. So throughout, his life, he has been teaching, and also his teachings to Kurma Pandita, Kurma Brahmana in South India, what he has to do, stay in your place, Tane Stita, Sutigatan, Tanuvan, Manobir, and serve the Lord with all your heart and soul. And back in Puri, his before going down South India, his conversations with Ramananda Rai, that he made Ramananda Rai speak. So everywhere else, they were asking questions and he was teaching, and here he is making Ramananda Rai speak and he asked him questions. So that is how we can see the whole life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is an excellent teacher. So since we discussed teachings of Lord Chaitanya and other Chaitanya Charitamrita, I was thinking we can discuss a few places in Krishna book where Lord Krishna himself is. There are so many places. Krishna book is action packed from one pastime to another pastime, and then the acharyas give commentary on it. And in between, there are some places where the Lord himself taught. So one such story is King Riga's story. So we all know King Riga's story. Just to explain a little bit, how when the sons of Lord Krishna, they went to play in the nearby forest area, they found, and they looked into a well, they found a huge lizard. And that lizard, so I mean, they were compassionate to help the lizard, to help it get out of the well, and they were trying all possible ways to get the lizard out of the well, but they couldn't. So they went back to their father and said that a giant lizard is stuck in a well and please come to help. And as soon as Krishna came and reached out to touch the lizard with his left hand, he immediately came out and changed his form. And he changed his form to King Riga. And Lord Krishna asked him, although he's all knowing, he asked him, who are you and how did you end up here? And it looks like you are a celestial personality. So then King Riga explains his story, that how he was a perfect king, giving charity, unlimited charity. And he had given thousands of cows in charity to one Brahmana. And while the Brahmana was taking the cows and walking away, one of the cows wandered back into the king's cow shed. So when the next Brahmana came, among the many thousands of cows, this cow was also given as a charity. So when the second Brahmana was taking the cow and going, the first Brahmana said, hey, wait a minute, that's a cow that the king gave it to me. And this Brahmana says, no, the cow, this cow was given to me by the king. So then they went to the king to settle the matter, and King Riga was confused. How did this happen? But it's a big mistake. So he told them, both of them, that, forget about this cow. I will give in place of that cow 100,000 cows to each of you. But both wanted the same cow. And then both left being dissatisfied. So because of this, and when he went to Yamaraj, and he said that for the amount of charity that you have done, you get almost endless, enjoyment in the heavenly planets. But there is also a small suffering. What would you like to have first? So King Riga chose the suffering first, and then he explained that how he got the body of a lizard and ended up in a well. And Lord Krishna, and then he glorified the Lord very nicely. How the Lord is a supreme controller, and that now he has seen the Lord, he has achieved the perfection of his life. And we can see the same prayers, similar prayers offered by Nalakubera and Manigriva also in the Damodara pastime. And then the Lord is answering back to King Riga, blessing him. And after King Riga left, he is telling to his sons. So let's read this. At this time, Lord Krishna was present among his relatives who were members of the Kshatriya class. To teach them through the exemplary character of King Riga, he said, even though a Kshatriya king may be as powerful as fire, it is not possible for him to usurp the property of a Brahmana and utilize it for his own purpose. If this is so, how can ordinary kings who falsely think themselves the most powerful beings within the material world usurp a Brahmana's property? I do not think that taking poison is as dangerous as taking a Brahmana's property. For ordinary poison, there is treatment. One can be relieved from its effects. But if one drinks the poison of taking a Brahmana's property, there is no remedy for the mistake. The perfect example is King Riga. He was very powerful and very pious, but due to the small mistake of unknowingly usurping a Brahmana's cow, he was condemned to the abominable life of a lizard. Ordinary poison affects only those who drink it. An ordinary fire can be extinguished simply by pouring water on it. But the Arani fire, ignited by the spiritual potency of a Brahmana who is dissatisfied, can burn to ashes the whole family of a person who provokes such a Brahmana. Formerly, the Brahmanas used to ignite the fire of sacrifice not with matches or any other external fire, but with their powerful mantras called Arani. If someone even touches a Brahmana's property, his family is ruined for 3 generations. However, if a Brahmana's property is forcibly taken away, the taker's family for 10 generations before him and 10 generations after will be subject to ruination. On the other hand, if someone becomes a pure Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, 10 generations of his family before his birth and 10 generations after will be liberated. So such is a powerful teaching of the Lord, and that is very apt to his princess who would be becoming the king. And so he is continuing his teachings, and then he says here, therefore I instruct you, all my boys and relatives present here, do not even by mistake take the possession of a Brahmana and thereby pollute your whole family. If someone even wishes to possess such property, let alone attempts to take it away by force, the duration of his life will be reduced. He will be defeated by his enemies, and after being bereft of his royal position, when he gives up his body, he'll become a serpent, giving trouble to all other living entities. My dear boys and relatives, I therefore advise you that even if a Brahmana becomes angry with you and calls you ill names or curses you, still you should not retaliate. On the contrary, you should smile, tolerate him, and offer your respects to the Brahmana. You know very well that even I myself offer my obeisances to the Brahmanas with great respect 3 times daily. You should therefore follow my instruction and example. I shall not forgive anyone who does not follow them, and I shall punish him. You should learn from the example of King Riga that even if someone unknowingly usurps the property of a Brahmana, he is put into a miserable condition of life. So that's why Lord Krishna is Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So, and also he's saying that even if a Brahmana calls you by ill names or curses you, still you should not retaliate. We can see how in the Bhrigu Muni's history, when Bhrigu Muni came and kicked on his chest, the Lord said that, my chest is so hard and your feet must have got hurt. So that is the Lord's personal example also. So he's saying that, not only my instructions, I myself offer my obeisances and follow my example. And in one more place, when Jaya and Vijaya were cursed by the four Kumaras, the Lord said again that when he came out and he saw what happened, and he said that if I find my hand to be offending Brahmanas, then I would not hesitate to cut it off and throw it. So that is the powerful instruction and example from the Lord. And when the Lord teaches, we can see that how, there's nothing else need to be explained and nothing can be clarified. Nobody can clarify it beyond what he has explained in many of his incarnations also. And Bhagavatam is a book of prayer and teaching like this. The whole pastime is given in short, and then when we come to prayers and teachings or conversations, then it goes on and on and on, because that's what we need. Of course, we need the pastimes also for purification, but the purpose of the pastime for us is to take an example from the instruction. So this is Lord Krishna teaching his sons, taking the example of King Nriga. Here we can see another example of Lord Krishna teaching his father. So this is again in the chapter, Vasudeva performs sacrifices and then he offers prayers to the Lord. So that's a beautiful prayers. The Lord, Vasudeva, when they met, Vasudeva and Devaki both are offering prayers. Vasudeva's prayers are full of knowledge and showing the greatness of the Lord in each and every aspect of creation, maintenance, and how he's a supreme controller and how he's completely cognizant of everything, how he is not under the laws of material nature, but how he controls them. And then Devaki also offers her prayers, and then Devaki asks that, can I see your brothers, the 6 dead sons of mine? And they were brought by the Lord, because this happened when Devaki asked that, I heard that you got the dead son of your guru back. Can I see them? So after Vasudeva had finished his prayers, Lord Krishna and Balaram, how they reacted, and he speaks also. So we can see. Lord Krishna is telling, when Vasudeva was addressing his divine sons in that way, Lord Krishna and Balaram were smiling. Because they are very affectionate to their devotees, they accepted all the appreciation of Vasudeva with a kindly, smiling attitude. Krishna then confirmed all of Vasudeva's statements as follows. My dear father, whatever you may say, we are after all your sons. What you have said about us is certainly a highly philosophical understanding of spiritual knowledge. I accept it in toto without exception. Then furthermore, he's saying, my dear father, everyone and everything, including me and my brother Balaram, as well as all the inhabitants of the city of Dwaraka, and the whole cosmic manifestation are exactly as you have already explained. But all of us are also qualitatively one. So then he's giving an example. Lord Krishna then gave a nice example in terms of the 5 material elements. The total material elements, namely the sky, air, fire, water, and earth are present in everything in the material world, whether in an earthen pot, or in a mountain, or in the trees, or in an earring. These 5 elements are present in everything in different proportions and quantities. A mountain is a gigantic form of the combination of these 5 elements, and a small earthen pot is made of these elements but in a smaller quantity. Therefore, all material items, although in different shapes or different quantities, are of the same ingredients. Similarly, the living entities beginning from Lord Brahma and including millions of Vishnu forms are also the living entities in different forms. From Lord Brahma down to the small ant are all of the same spiritual quality. Some are great in quantity and some are small, but qualitatively they are of the same nature. It is therefore confirmed in the Upanishads that Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, is a chief among all living entities, and that he maintains them and supplies them with all necessities of life. Anyone who knows this philosophy is in perfect knowledge. The Vedic version, Tat Tvam Asi, thou art the same, means not that everyone is God, but that everyone is qualitatively of the same nature as God. After hearing Krishna speak the entire philosophy of spiritual life in an abbreviated summation, Vasudeva was exceedingly pleased with his son. Being thus elated, he could not speak but remained silent. So we can see what is the effect of hearing the Lord. And he summarized the whole of 108 Upanishads or whatever he had to say in Bhagavad Gita in 45 minutes. In a crash course to Arjuna when he was in a most critical situation and after the conch shells were blown. So the conversation happens, if you see in the first chapter, the conch shells were already blown. Then Arjuna is asking to keep his chariot in between the two. Then he is confused, and before the fighting can start, Krishna conveyed the essence of the whole of Upanishads in a crisp form in Bhagavad Gita. So we can see that Vasudeva is saying the same thing, that the Lord summarized the entire philosophy of spiritual life in an abbreviated summation, showing with an example how the Lord, how all the living entities are qualitatively one, but not quantitatively the same. So even in Bhagavad Gita, we can see in Subodhini in the back, he has summarized the amount of analogies the Lord gives, because he's a perfect teacher. And Srila Prabhupada's lectures are also filled with logic and analogies, because these analogies help us to understand. We are totally not trained in the spiritual matters, how to approach, how to study, how to analyze, even to analyze that one verse, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu analyzed with Keshav Kashmiri, it's so hard for us. What is this grammar? What is that? Because we don't have the training, we don't have the Gurukula system. So analogies are, the stepping stones, and Krishna uses them throughout in all the chapters to make things easy for Arjuna. Although Arjuna doesn't need it, make things easy for anyone who would, under proper guidance of the spiritual master, read Bhagavad Gita. So this is another beautiful instruction of the Lord to his father Vasudeva. Then comes another instruction the Lord gives to the sages. Yeah. So after the sages are glorifying the Lord answers thus, and this is a very often quoted shloka by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord said, "Now our lives are indeed successful, for we have obtained life's ultimate goal, the audience of great yoga masters, which even demigods only rarely obtain. How is it that people who are not very austere and who recognize God only in his deity form in the temple can now see you, touch you, inquire from you, bow down to you, worship your feet, and serve you in other ways? Mere bodies of water are not the real sacred places of pilgrimage, nor are mere images of earth and stone the true worshipable deities. These purify one only after a long time, but saintly sages purify one immediately upon being seen. Neither the demigods controlling the fire, the sun, the moon, and the stars, nor those in charge of earth, water, ether, air, speech, and mind actually remove the sins of their worshippers, who continue to see in terms of dualities. But wise sages destroy one's sins when respectfully served for even a few moments. So, this is often quoted verse, text 13. यस्यात्म बुद्धि कुणपे त्रिधातुके स्वदी कलत्रादिषु भौम्य इज्यति यतीर्थ बुद्धि शलिलेन कर्हिचित् जनेष्व विघ्नेषु स एव गोकरः. One who identifies his self as an inert body composed of mucus, bile, and air. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke. Who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual path. Such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. So there's a big purport to it. So we can see that Prabhupada often quoted this because the pastimes and the higher understandings of the pastimes of the Lord and his internal energy is based on this. That if we identify ourselves as a body and the land in which we are born as worshipable, and going to the pilgrimage only to take bath, but not to get association with saintly people and purify ourselves, he's saying, although we may go to the pilgrimage, we may do all this, we are actually no better than a cow or a ass. So His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, when he came to Toronto, he was telling this, that among the assembly of exalted sages, Krishna is telling this as a main point of discussion, as an instruction to all, that don't identify with the body. And so if we this is not just like a theory that we hear and then we are. It's not a theoretical book. Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam or any spiritual books are not theory, because it's practice, and practice comes after so many. Being absorbed in theory, assimilating it, praying to be able to apply it, and genuinely trying to apply it, and after failing many, many times and introspecting, then by the mercy of the Lord, we may understand what he says. So, Prabhu pointed out that this may be a very, preliminary instruction, but this was the Krishna spoke only 4 verses, 4 to 5 verses from 9 to 13, and this is the main instruction that he had given, that identifying with the material body, we are no better than an animal. So what was the reaction of the sages? Sukadeva Goswami said, hearing such unfathomable words from the unlimitedly wise Lord Krishna, the learned Brahmanas remained silent, their minds bewildered. For some time, the sages pondered the Supreme Lord's behavior, which resembled that of a subordinate living being. They concluded that he was acting this way to instruct the people in general. Thus they smiled and spoke to him, the spiritual master of the universe. So Krishna is a perfect teacher, and when he comes down as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is perfect in his teachings as well. His whole life, his every moment, his conversation, and specifically his teachings to the Goswamis are the base of our whole devotional practice now. If he hadn't found out Radha Kunda and the other places in Vrindavan, and if he hadn't instructed the Goswamis to go and dedicate their lives to build temples and write books at the same time, spread the holy name of the Lord, then how would we get this? And if Srimad Bhagavatam now we have, you know, everything they are we serials in the TV, Mahabharata, different directors, and little Krishna and pastimes of Krishna is available at just click of the media. It's so much available. But where did it all start from? It all came from Srimad Bhagavatam. And before the printing started, Srimad Bhagavatam was painstakingly written from one learned person to another in palm leaves, and then that was passed on, and then that was passed on. Like that way, how we saw that Srinivasacharya and others, they were taking all these literatures written by Goswamis and taking it to Bengal for the instruction of devotees there, how it got lost in between, then it was recovered. So although we are able to get all this very freely, it has a deep history and so much devotee sacrifice of because of which we are able to get access to the Lord's pastimes, and we are very, very grateful to the Lord for and especially his teachings and his instructions to all his associates, and who spread the movement in such a way and kept it as it is. And then the other acharyas who were coming, they revived the importance, although it was covered momentarily after the Lord left. So we're very grateful to them, and grateful to Nimai Pandit, who continued teaching even though after he took sannyas. But he started his life also completely as a teacher, and we can imagine how the students, how come, I mean, there's no wonder that they could master everything in 2 months. And he taught them in the most merciful way, because he was Namo Mahavadanyaya Avatar. So after this, then we read about Lakshmi Priya. I thought we discussed enough about, nothing is enough, but at least the previous speakers, they spoke a lot about the glories of Lakshmi Priya, her service attitude, and the beautiful marriage ceremony between the Lord and Lakshmi Priya, and their interactions between them, what all we can learn from them. And Lakshmi means is always associated with the Lord, and Lakshmi can never be separated. We see that so many instances in Srimad Bhagavatam also, how she came out from the Samudra Manthan and she reunited with the Lord, and also in the pastime of Srinivas Balaji, how she did tapasya to reunite with the Lord. So she's never separated from the Lord. She's actually Chanchala, but the Lord is the husband of the goddess of fortune, Sri Pati, Lakshmi Pati. And so many times the Lord is addressed like this throughout in Srimad Bhagavatam and also in all other literatures. So we can see that how Lakshmi Devi was not able to take the separation from the Lord, and she also knew what's coming. What's coming is a long separation from the Lord, and the Lord will start his pastimes as being in separation in the mood of Radharani himself. So Lakshmi Devi wound up her pastimes and decided to join the Lord in Vaikuntha. And then we can see that how the separation, the snake of separation from the Lord bit her, and she was always engaged in the service of her mother-in-law Sachi Devi, but did not, cannot live without the Lord, and went back to join the Lord in Vaikuntha. So these are some of the points that came to my mind. I mean, I am not qualified to talk all this, but just to please Preeti Vilasini Mataji. So I just took up this opportunity. Thank you so much. And please add your points, whatever your realizations are. And if there are any questions that I can answer, I will try. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Such a sweet class. Thank you for focusing on the first part, the glorifying the Brahmanas and talking about how Nimai Pandit was such a beautiful teacher. And I like the way you spoke about the analogies because I see that a lot when you teach kids, you emphasize on analogies, and I learned that from you. I feel very grateful that I got that little thing to enhance whatever I'm speaking with your help, quoting analogies of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, and the beautiful stories also you associated with. And I like the last thing you said, which was quite interesting, that she was exhibiting her separation from the Lord, and she wanted to give up her body eventually, because very soon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be exhibiting his separation from Krishna and the mood of Srimati Radha. That was very interesting, I thought. That's a nice analysis. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very, very beautiful class as always. Thank you for your presence on the call. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving this opportunity. And I thought I learned the analogies thing from you. Because whenever we discuss, you always say that, give it in a terms that the kids can understand, something that they can relate to. And yeah, I read this somewhere, I think in another commentary that some devotee was telling that this also the reason that she wound up the pastime. So I just quoted that. Yeah, thank you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Lalitangi Radha Mataji. Thank you for a very sweet, beautiful class, as Preeti Nasini Mataji said, for explaining all the verses and so many, and all the details. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or realizations, please go ahead at this time. Shri Radha Devi Dasi Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for giving class today. It was very lovely to hear your voice and to hear what you said about the taking the stealing the Brahmin or Vaishnava's belongings, and so your 10th generation is destroyed, and your forefathers and your whole life is destroyed, and because Krishna doesn't forgive you, even though the Vaishnava or the Brahmin forgives you, right? Even then Krishna doesn't forgive you, right?
I'm not sure of that because when this happened with Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni, Krishna said, I can't do anything on it. If somebody can do something, that is Ambarish Maharaj. So when Ambarish Maharaj forgave him, then everything was all right. So this is something that I could think of, but the others also can clarify.
So yeah, so thank you for this beautiful class, and I hope you come again and again and again because you're so beautiful, Mataji. Just love the class today. Thank you so much, Dandavat Pranam, Mataji.
Mataji, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So although I didn't prepare much, I just read from the thing. Thank you.
You're doing great service to those Nityananda and Gauranga. Thank you so much.
There are comments in the chat, Mataji. Kirtida Sundari Mataji is saying, nice class, Mataji. Thank you so much. And there's another comment. Hare Krishna Mataji, what a beautiful structured class with so many references as always. Thank you so much. Indulekha Karuna Mataji saying Hare Krishna. Lalitangi Mataji, thank you so much for a wonderful class, Mataji. So nice to hear Chaitanya Leela from you after a long time.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, all the devotees. Encouraging. I have been nourished so much by Kirtida Mataji, Chinmay Mataji, Indulekha Mataji's class. So whatever I heard from you, I'm just trying to repeat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Aji Lalitangi Mataji, Koti Koti Dandot Pranam. Mataji, when you and Aji Kitida and Aji Kitida Sunday Mataji, Aji Priti Vilasini Mataji, and the fourth pillar is all Bhakti Sangha teachers. So Mataji, I learned one lesson from you that you train the all new Vaishnava, you and Aji Kitida Sundari and Aji Priti Vilasini. You are the backbone of Bhakti Sangha, but you are staying backside and give a chance to newcomer Vaishnava. That is the true Vaishnava and true leader, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Koti Koti Tanvat Pranam to your sincere seva. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki Jai Gopinath ki Jai. And when you are teaching kids, Mataji, you become a kids. And you teach us that level. And not only these Bhakti Sangha, but so many form you are given a class. Even Aji Srinam Mataji, you train her in a pregnancy time. And now she is taking more than 30, 40, 50 Vaishnava, and maybe on YouTube, so many Vaishnava are attending class, Mataji. Systematical making PPT and teachers are Shishi Bhagavad Gita already complete. Now she start Krishna book, and she said all credits goes to Aji Lalitanki Mataji. Because of her hard work, I become a Das Dasanu Das, servant of the Acharya Jai Pataka Maharaj. Koti Koti Danvat
Yeah,
Pranam
that
Mataji.
is the
Hare
humility,
Krishna.
Mataji, your humility and all devotees' humility. Although I didn't do much and I am learning from all of them. So yeah, that's how devotees are. They don't take credit. And thank you, Mataji, for your summary every class, and hope your health is good. And thank you so much for your association, for your songs, and for your recipes, for your everything in Bhakti Sangha. Hare Krishna.
All
Anita
mercy
Mataji,
of
please go
Srimati
ahead.
all mercy of Srimati Shishi Radharani and Guru and Gauranga.
Anita Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Lalitangi Mataji. Very wonderful class, Mataji. Dandavad pranams, Mataji. Very, very nice class, Mataji. So, no, I'm hearing first time your class, but it's really very wonderful. I think I gave one once in Bhagavatam also, on sixth canto. So, Mataji, now my question is like this pastime of King Radha, the Brahmana, like the fault was not even on the king's side, right? So according to my understanding, so it was not on the king's side also. Then how to understand this, why he got the punishment even for that also from the Yamaraj? How to understand this? Because in this material we tend to do many, at least for me, I tend to do like many faults, knowing or unknowingly, right? So even for unknowing faults, if we get the punishment, then um, how to understand that, Mataji? We don't know
Yeah,
that it is a fault also. We may regret after we know that it is a fault, we will regret for that. So, but still, how to overcome that?
yes, Mataji, very nice question. I remember somebody asked a similar question in a forum. Even with the same thing happened to who's that? Who was Rupa Goswami? He was actually in the Leela meditating on the Lord, and then there something happened that Radharani was playing with Krishna, and she just took off the branch of a tree, and then he burst into laughter, and there was a Vaishnava who was walking past, and he thought that he laughed at him because he was crippled. Then immediately that ecstasy for Rupa Goswami vanished. So he was not even aware, right, that this Vaishnava was passing by, and he did not laugh at him. But still the ecstasy vanished. This is what, we know the history as. And then Sanatana Goswami said that you make a feast, and the person who's not coming is the one who's offended, and you can ask him the forgiveness. And then finally he said that, I am the offender, like that. So from this instance also we see that knowingly or unknowingly, because why did Krishna bring this topic of King Driga also? As you say, there is no fault on him. But the Brahmanas felt dissatisfied. That is true. And he has been unknowingly the cause of it. So that's why we say this mantra. What is that? Ahar nisham maya dasoham itimam matva shamasva madhusudana. What's the starting of aparade sahasrani kriyante ahar nisham maya. Aparade sahasrani, thousands of offenses. Kriyante ahar nisham maya. So even in the day and in the night time, thousands of offenses are committed by me. Dasoham itima matva, please, consider me as your servant. Shamasva madhusudana, please forgive me. And also we say vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Knowingly or unknowingly, whatever we have done to any Vaishnavas in any form of life, we may be plant or a cat Vaishnava or a dog Vaishnava, we don't know. So we just offer our obeisances and ask forgiveness, and that's how seeing so many pastimes. That's how this world is. Like that's yamasya karuna nasti, or the material world. He says is durgam, is difficult to overcome. There are no concessions. If it is, if we fit it, we fit it. If not, no, there's no chance of us to explain that I didn't know, unknowingly I did, or whatever. So, the thing is, we can, what I heard the devotee answer for this question is, rest assured that we are committing offenses, knowingly or unknowingly. And in that platform, please, try to ask forgiveness from the Lord and from the Vaishnavas, and pray to the Lord so that we may stop committing offenses one day, or, if at least we may be forgiven, and then we go to the stage of Nama, Shuddha Nam, and Shuddha Seva, from Nama Bas, from serving the holy name with offenses, serving the devotees and the deities with offenses. Slowly we continue doing the same. That's what my understanding is. And of course, bhakti is not described as a plant or a tree. It's a creeper. So creeper is so tender, right? A plant or a tree can withstand the typhoons and hurricanes. And the creeper, even a small breeze, it will be blown away with the root. So our bhakti creeper is like that, very tender. And if we make 4 steps advancement, then we may make 6 steps regression. So that's why, Nrsimhadev, our Narsimha Arati is also instituted every day. We pray for protection of Nrsimhadev to devotees who are suffering physically, mentally, and ultimately, first and foremost, we should pray for the Bhakti creeper, the tender Bhakti creeper that is there, and forces of Kali Yuga, and we ourselves are conditioned, and any time it could be uprooted. So we can pray to Lord Nrsimhadev, who is merciful, to forgive our offenses, remove the obstacles, and so we can progress in this path of devotion. So this is what I heard, Mataji. Anybody else like to add?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji. Such an elaborated answer. So we may do the offense like we don't know also, but still we have to ask the forgiveness to the person and to the Lord also. So thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Lalitangi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. So nice to hear your class after such a long time, Mataji. It's really such a pleasure to hear your class again, and with your, beautiful pastime narration. You always have them on your fingertips, like you have your Bhagavad Gita shlokas on your fingertips. So you're our fingertip Mataji, as I call you. So nice to see you again, Mataji. Please give more of your association. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. I don't have a question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji, for nourishing us with your nectar, devotion-filled songs. Usually we hear Carnatic musicians, they sing, but we don't know whether I mean, it's sung for professionally, or I mean, we don't know whether they are devotees. We can't comment on it, but you are such a person with combination of both. So we very much relish your songs and music, and also your classes, your questions, everything, Mataji. Thank you for your association.
हरे कृष्णा ललितांगी माता जी दंडोत प्रणाम शिल प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय very very beautiful class माता जी and very nice pastimes you narrated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your kind encouragement and association.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. If there are no more realizations or questions at this time, I would like to pay my obeisances to Her Grace Lalitangi Radha Devi Mataji and all the assembled devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namah. अनंत वैष्णव की जय। रामचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की
Jai.
गुरु की जय। श्री चैतन्य
Hare
भागवत
Krishna.
क्लास की जय।
Jai.
हर ग्रेस
Bhagavata ki
ललितांगी राधा
jai.
माता जी की
Shri
जय।
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna
Hare Krishna.
Mataji. Thank you so much. Good class. Beautiful class, Mataji. You narrated very nice pastime.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
I'll be ending the call here. Thank you all so much for joining us. Hare Krishna.